Chuofan 897. Chuofan kept a poker face and asked coldly, "Hey disciple, I am asking you for real, if I wanted to seize the Central Heaven Sword, would you put your life on the line for the Shanguan family, or just hand it over to me?" "Master, you don't even need to ask. My life is already in your hands, and I am not about to die for nothing, so I'd definitely trade that sword for my life," Chadangwan Yulan sighed, looking totally helpless. Chuofan was a bit surprised, then let out a laugh. "You really know how to read the room, so I feel pretty good about giving you a major responsibility for now." Shanguan Yulan asked back curiously, "What kind of responsibility are we talking about, Master?" Chuofan shook his head mysteriously. "It's not time yet. Just stay with the Shanguan family and play your part. Don't cause any more trouble, and wait for the right moment to prove your worth according to my plan." Even though he was super reluctant, Shanguan Yulan still had to bow and accept his fate, replying, "Yes, Master, I could cut." In the quiet forest, everything suddenly went dead silent. Shanguan Yulan looked around and called out softly, "Master, are you still there?" All that answered him was the cold night wind whistling through the trees, with no human voice in sight. "Is he really gone?" Shanguan Yulan muttered angrily, then took a deep breath and looked up at the sky, sighing in total frustration. He couldn't understand why he was so unlucky to get dragged into this mess, let alone being forced to play the traitor under such a terrifying monster. With no other choice right now, he had to slink back and wait for word from the guy. Despite being tortured all day, he still had no clue who that person actually was. He shook his head tiredly and, with his body covered in wounds, slowly disappeared into the shadows of the trees. Just as he vanished, the space around him flickered slightly, and Chuofan reappeared right where he had been standing. Watching the young master's back, Chuofan gave a wicked smile, knowing he had secured a key pawn to flip the script instead of just being a bystander. After that, Chuofan's figure also vanished into thin air. In the main hall of the old house in Fian City, Shanguan Feixiang sat in the head seat with a serious face, his eyes fixed on the front door. Shanguan Kangjian seemed super restless, pacing back and forth anxiously. Gudu Sintong, sitting nearby, was still acting totally chill, playing with the stuff in his hands like nothing was wrong. Suddenly, a guard rushed into the hall. Shanguan Kangjian immediately went up to him, bombarding him with questions about whether they were back yet. The guard respectfully reported that there was still no news about the young master or rumor. Shanguan Feixiang let out a disappointed sigh and signaled for the guard to leave. Shanguan Kangjian worriedly wondered why they weren't back, fearing that something bad had happened. Shanguan Feixiang thought for a moment, and then just silently shook his head. Shanguan Kangjian asked Gu Santum why he was still so calm when his dad hadn't come back yet. She found it weird, because the two were usually so close, yet when the father went missing all day, the kid acted like he didn't have a care in the world. Gu Santum glanced at her, then kept playing, and said his dad wouldn't have any trouble, but others definitely would. Shanguan Kangjian was dazed, not catching the hidden meaning behind the kid's words. Gu Santum just gave a mysterious smile without explaining further, which made her even more anxious. Another guard ran in and excitedly announced that the young master was back. Shanguan Feixiang and Shanguan Kangjian immediately stood up and ran outside to check. They saw Shanguan Yulan walking toward them with a swollen face and a heavy, painful limp. Both of them were shocked and asked who the person standing in front of them actually was. Gu Santum smirked and said that just as he'd predicted, someone had run into a disaster. Shanguan Yulan choked up with emotion when he saw his family, and said he was finally back. Shanguan Feixiang still couldn't believe his eyes, so he asked again to confirm his identity. The guard explained that they recognized the young master by his familiar aura, even though his appearance had changed. Shanguan Feixiang sensed the aura, and confirmed it was indeed Yulan. He asked in shock about what had caused him to end up in such a miserable state. Shanguan Kangjian also worriedly asked about Gu's whereabouts. Shanguan Yulan angrily snapped at his cousin for only caring about someone else without even asking about his injuries. Shanguan Yulan felt incredibly wronged. Shanguan Kangjian kept asking about wondering why her cousin was back, but the other guy was still nowhere to be seen. Hearing the word safe, Shanguan Yulan felt extremely pissed off given his current condition. He thought to himself that he wasn't safe or sound at all. He wanted her to take a good look at his battered face to see the reality of the situation. However, in front of his uncle, he had to hold back his rage. Suddenly, there was a loud shout from the gate asking if the young master had returned yet. Chuofan appeared with a panicked look and told his uncle that he had lost track of his cousin. Shanguan Feixiang and his daughter looked at the two of them, and could only shake their heads in silent frustration. They didn't understand what on earth these two had done to end up in such a mess. Shanwan Fakesham gave a helpless sigh and pointed to the person standing next to him to let him know that Yulan was back. Chuofan faked his surprise, and then commented that even though his cousin's appearance had changed, you could still see his natural, extraordinary vibe if you looked closely. Shanguan Qingjian couldn't help but laugh at Chuofan's words. Shanguan Yulan was so angry his whole body started shaking. He wondered if the guy was actually praising him or just trolling him on purpose. Shanguan Fakesham sternly demanded that they explain everything that had happened today. Chuofan quickly spoke up to explain the situation with a very serious face.